One of the things that gives me goosebumps the most is a 5-man Gideon ultimate in an ALET video. Gideon is a amazing hero that can make some sick team plays. Now his viability, however, has gone down dramatically with some new heroes. He is a very particular pick that requires a particular team comp, both for you and on the enemy team. The deck here that we are going to go through is trying to make him more viable in more situations and be more of a team player. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a hero build and guide. I am Sylphin. So we're taking a look here at Gideon Event Horizon, what I have kind of thought of as his meta deck. So we're going to go off with the Archmagus. He is a caster. He needs to deal damage, he's not a front line, so the Archmagus is there. In the early game, we have kind of some options. Not really. Health potion and healer token, or a cast token and healer token, just if you want to do damage, and health potion if you really need sustain against somebody like Amora Gesh. You could maybe switch this for a mana potion if you like, but that's there. Now, the whole deck is really quite something, and we'll talk more about why I think this is viable later on. You have a dummy ward here that you need to go place, you know, somewhere safe. We'll talk about that later as well. Then we go into a Sage's Ward. We go into a Burst Engine for this mana regen. But in this early game here, you have an option with the Cast Converter, especially if you're up against somebody like Morigesh, maybe a Shinbi that kind of can really do her whole combo thing on you. So Cast Converter is an option against those really high damage harass heroes. Now the other cards here in the early game are the Burst Engine. Again, a little bit of mana regen, but some damage, just because I want that sustained regen to poke, have those abilities that are very important. Also have an Elder Mage Amulet for some health. I mean, really, it's really up to you what order you go into here. After this, we have the Teleblink, which is really good on Gideon because you can save your teleport. Again, we'll talk more about that later. The end game build is as follows: Ash of the Witch, Divine Shield, Thick Blood, Nanoplasm, Tainted Magic, and the Sorcerer's Ward. Some crazy business coming in here. High utility, but still high damage. Now, here in the early game, I like to put my dummy ward in a defensive position here because I can see crazy business like this here. The Fae is trying to harass me. Not much really that she's going to be able to do. Why? Because we always start off, unless there's some really crazy jungle invasions or defensive craziness like that, go for our Torn Space, our E ability. Gideon opens a portal at a targeted area, allowing him to quickly teleport. Friendly heroes can follow him through the portal by jumping into it. That is always forgotten about. You can use your teleport if your friendly team can manage to use it to help your allies. That's always forgotten. The mana cost, 55. It's really not much. You really don't think about that really ever. It's very consistent. And the range, though, increases when you upgrade it. From 850 units to 1,000 unit teleport. This ability I save for last. It's really not that significant, especially with all the other abilities being very nice and effective. The cooldown, 12 seconds. You have to pay attention to when you use it, either right in the initial part of an engagement to get off your ultimate, that we'll talk about later, or just kind of save it for a time that you know that you'll need it. As a mid laner, at the odd minute mark, you have to be getting the mid lane buff. We can see here that I went over to this side, the Bellica went to that side, very nice and civil. The junglers were doing their own thing. We have a Serath Aurora jungle in this game, very weird. And we are fine. And we get that. You have to get those river buffs. You have to at least contest them with your jungler as much as possible. You can rely on it to a point. If you know that you can get them, you can start to use your abilities to really harass the enemy mid laner. As soon as you have, you know, level 2, especially level 3, you can start being more aggressive. Now, this second ability that I chose to get here is our Cosmic Rift. It's his Q ability. Gideon opens a Cosmic Rift over the battlefield, dropping a meteor at the target location. The ability damage is substantial, 100 to 280 with level 2 upgrade that you see me have right here, going from 100 to 160. Definitely something you want to upgrade really quite quickly. The mana cost 100 to 145. It's, yeah, you can't not be spamming this too much. You have to use it very, very purposefully. And the cast range is 2,000. It's a long range poke ability that Gideon can definitely use to great effect. The power scaling is 1.25. It does a ton of damage if you have a ton of power as well. The cooldown is 8 seconds. Pretty quick. So in the late game, if you're building Gideon with a ton of sustain, you can definitely get away with some good poke. Now, what increases the viability and effectiveness of the Cosmic Rift is his last ability, his Burden. It's his right click or right mouse button. Gideon fires a projectile that tethers him to an enemy hero. It seems like a lockdown ability. It'll make kind of like little parentheses, these things around your target, but it's actually a projectile, so you have to aim. It does travel, so just be careful with that. When tethered, the enemy is slowed and takes ability damage over time. The tether breaks early if the enemy gets out of range or breaks line of sight. So the ability damage over time is 21 to 58, and it ticks off 4 times. Again, if the enemy is tethered, not that much damage. The power scaling is still 0.9375, but doesn't really end up being all that much damage. You mainly use it for the slow. That motive speed slew is 150 to 300 and is pretty darn good. At this point, I am fulfilling a good, a very essential part of a mid lane role, and that is ganking. You see that we have level 5 here, and you just saw Gideon's ultimate. Once you get level 5, or if there's really clear times when a good gank is possible, you can rotate before level 5. You have to rotate, be aware of the pressure of your outside lanes at all times, be watching your minimap, and you have to rotate when the opportunity arises to either attack effectively or defend effectively. Now, Burden is a great combo for your Cosmic Rift. I missed a Cosmic Rift here, probably because I didn't have her tethered. That slow into your Cosmic Rift is very effective. Now here, I slowed down the Bellica for our Serath, but she kind of doesn't see that, and she uses her slow on top of mine. So there is some utility there for sure that you can help out your team. Your Burden into your Cosmic Rift, as I do here on this phase, is a great way to secure some good damage on a relatively close enemy hero. Obviously, if they're too far, the tether doesn't work. So if they're kind of mid-range / close to you, especially when they're close, you can tether them and then land that Cosmic Rift. Now comes the time when, again, I could rotate. Now, our early game cards here has been a Healer token and a Sage's Ward. I land that Cosmic Rift to take out that Serath before she can do any more damage to my Greystone. And then I go after this phase. Missed the Cosmic Rift. Shouldn't really have done that. I should have saved it for this Bellica. Now, I used my ultimate here because I didn't think that phase was going to be able to pull her out, and I go down. Now, look at what I used here. I used my Chronotonic. Why? Well, as you can see here, my ultimate is already up. That is because the Chronotonic gives us 10% cooldown reduction for 15 seconds, as well as being kind of a health potion. It's a fantastic little thing to help you with the health regen, and also the fact that, well, Gideon is immobile while we have his ultimate. His ultimate here is Black Hole. Gideon starts channeling and summoning a black hole from his Rift device, which creates a swirling vortex in a radius around him. Enemies within the radius are dragged inwards and take ability damage over time. If enemies are stunned, that pull inwards is even stronger because it's a force. It's kind of like a force. So if they're walking outwards and then you have a force inwards, it's they kind of cancel each other out. But if they're walking towards you, or if they're just kind of stunned in place, that pull is a great effect. So if you can combo a Gideon ultimate with, say, a Aurora ultimate or a Steel ultimate, oh boy, that pull inwards is very effective in getting them really close together. Or even something like a Fae ultimate. That also works really well too. The ability damage is absolutely insane, 320 to 700, because it lasts for 3.5 seconds. So it's not, all of that damage instantly. It's over 3.5 seconds. Now the mana cost is substantial, 125 to 225 at the late game. So especially here in the early to mid game, you have to be careful with how much mana you actually have. Now, here, I try to get away from the Aurora ultimate by going back behind my minions, but unfortunately I don't. That was just a great gank by the enemy team. The teleport that makes Gideon very elusive can only do so much. Now, the power scaling on his ultimate is absolutely ridiculous. As you can see here, we delete this Bellica. I land a great Q. It's kind of really great Steel ultimate, made it nice and easy for me. It's insane, his Black Hole. If you put power on Gideon, his ultimate does tremendous damage. But remember, it's kind of split over 3.5 seconds. I chose this time to finish off that Aurora with my ultimate, and then the phase kind of just got on the edge of it. Now, the whole thinking here is that Chronotonic can really help cut down 10% of our ultimate as long as you use it. You have to use that Chronotonic to just kind of help. Plus, you're going to be taking damage, which is a big issue with Gideon's ultimate. At this time, we can talk about why you pick Gideon and especially why you don't. Gideon is very, very susceptible to stuns. He can be stunned right as you are casting your teleport, and then it's ruined. You can be stunned obviously during your ultimate, so you cannot pick Gideon in against a high CC team composition. You can't pick Gideon against a Narbash, a Decker, a Rampage. There's tons more, I'm sure, that I just can't think about. Even ground-based, like a Bellica, you just can't do it on the ground. You can't do it on the ground against a Steel because of his charge and his ultimate. You have to be very picky with when you pick Gideon. When you do, however, against the enemy team here that you can see, the Bellica is a ground-based stun. Aurora, yes, she does have her ultimate, but I'm gonna try to be very cautious of when I use it. I'll use my ultimate after she uses hers, or if she's just not there. Feng Mao has nothing, Serath has nothing, and FaZe has a root, but that doesn't affect my ultimate. So I chose Gideon here as a perfect mid laner against this team composition. Bellica, yeah, she can drain my mana, but I'll just be careful and try to do that. So Gideon, a very specific pick. You pick him for a very specific team comp and stuff like that. So you can see how I'm like, holy smokes, I try to get out of there. And that's the elusive nature of Gideon again. Now here's a good showcase of Gideon's elusive nature. I'm trying to come in and help my team, but then the Serath, I'm like, oh no, she has the black buff. So I do my Burden and Cosmic Rift combo into my teleport, into my ultimate. She almost dies. I don't use my Chronotonic, but then I use our next card here, Teleblink, to some great effect to get out of there. If I don't have that, I would have been dead. Guaranteed. Now, that is why we get the Teleblink. Gideon, obviously, you want to get off the ground, away from melee heroes, and away from ground-based stuns, so you need to get into the air in order for your ultimate to really get good value. Not too high because it's a sphere, so then if you're too high, then people kind of around here, right, won't get affected, whereas if you were lower, it would. So not too high, but high off the ground. Now, if you can teleblink up into the air, use your ultimate, and then have your teleport to teleport out, Gideon all of a sudden becomes much more reliable. You have to make sure that you survive when you are in the air from your ultimate, which is why you can see us go for our Elder Mage Amulet. Gives us 3 CP of health, a fair amount here, a little bit more. We have 1,347 already here. We're only hero level 10 at 30 CPs, so that's a fair amount. And you can see that I'm still being careful. Yeah, I am the 2/3 health. And I'm just trying to be careful here. My ultimate's almost off cooldown. I might be able to maybe get away with it. So I'm just trying to stay here. And you can see here that I do just that. We obliterate that Sarah. She probably wasn't thinking about what she was doing. And you can see I'm trying to play it safe. I have the red buff, so I'm like, ooh! And here is my ultimate. Go to town. Oh, but it doesn't do much. So that was a perfect example of going too high. I used my teleblink there. Teleblink has a much farther range than your teleport. Teleblink has a 1,500 unit range, whereas your teleport here at level 1 only 850. So just be careful. Just be cautious. The teleblink does send you really far, so you just have to be careful with where exactly that is. You just have to get used to how far teleblink blinks you. Now at this point, I've finally started to go into those end game kind of utility cards. I got another burst engine here in the second slot for more damage, a little bit of mana regen, but I switched out the first one that had more mana regen with the thick blood. The thick blood is for the supports that are going to run quenching scales, pretty much guaranteed. That is, 300-400 health that is cut down to, well, 200, so that is good. That is nice and significant, because your ultimate is pretty much guaranteed to make the enemy support pop quenching scales. Pretty much guaranteed. You land your ultimate at some point in the battlefield, either they've already used it, and then your thick blood just goes to town on enemies, on enemy lifesteal, which is something that people forget about, or the enemy doesn't use the quenching scales, and then they use it when you have your ultimate, and then it's reduced by effectiveness in 40%. Absolutely very, very good on Gideon. I think because of that, his ultimate and the fact that your Cosmic Rift and Burn and stuff like that will apply it as well. Very effective. Now, Ash of the Witch is another one that's just going to compound the effectiveness of your burden. If you really want to slow somebody down, lock them in place. I have used it quite a few times. I've been saving my burden since the Serath is just going to town with her slow. I've been saving it, so now my burden is almost going to be a pseudo root, which again will be very effective with my melee hero allies. Also, Ash of the Witch is going to compound that pull, not only the pull towards the center of my ultimate, but also it's gonna disable them from running out even more. If I can manage to get more than 2 seconds of my ultimate off, which against this team composition and any team composition that you're picking Gideon in, you should be able to. You'll get 2 slows from Ash of the Witch off on your ultimate. It's crazy. Now be careful though. Don't transition into the utility cards without power. Make sure you still have a significant amount of power already. I had equipped the other 2 cards here and gotten rid of my Elder Mage Amulet and this burst engine, but I didn't have enough power. Just make sure you have power. You still need to deal damage. Don't forget about that. Look at this damage on this Aurora. Look at that slow from Tainted Mag, or from Ash of the Witch, sorry. Go to town, and then I'm like, oh, she's coming back. There's my burden. Look at that slow, the compounding slow from my burden and Ash of the Witch, and she is rendered pretty much useless. Great amount of damage. Now here is a missed opportunity for my ultimate. There's my Cosmic Rift coming down. You can see the really cool portal that opens up with my Undertow Gideon skin. But just watch that of the missed opportunity here. The Aurora ultimate has already gone off, and at this point I knew that that was the chance for the enemy team to engage. I don't use my ultimate. Look look at the potential here. An ultimate right here. I could have easily teleported up and gotten into that. Even a teleblink, I think maybe it would have taken me too far, but absolutely a totally missed opportunity. I had my teleport, I had my teleblink up. Well, no, not my teleblink because I just took damage, but that was an absolute missed opportunity right there. Just teleport, teleblink right here. Look at that. I felt it there. I felt it, but I didn't do it. I really remember this this moment, and I was really kicking myself at this time. Now I want you to see this enemy phase here. Watch her health regen. She used Cast Converter, and it's just coming off cooldown. I think she pops it here, and oh no, she doesn't pop it here, but just watch. I think she pops it now. There's 71. She just used an ability. That's what it is. But look, it's getting reduced by 40%. She ends up going down, but that ultimate of mine, applying that blight, so effective here in this matchup. A good teleblink there into my ultimate, just fantastic. Now another card here that we get that really helps Gideon, because he is so susceptible when he's doing his ultimate, is Nanoplasm. Spell Vamp heal for 20% of the damage dealt to enemy heroes, 5% against enemy minions. Usually an engagement is on an objective, usually, so there's minions around, which will also help with his ultimate. Your ultimate, you'll go in, maybe there's minions around, but either way, there's still heroes around, especially if it's multi-hero ultimate. Your ultimate will heal you for a ton of damage. So that will help with his sustain when he's in his ultimate, when he's just sitting there and the enemy rangers just pounding it into you with their basic decks. It's an easy just shooting a stationary bird in the sky. Super painful. So again, make sure you have power. Make sure you have enough power to be relevant, but you're slowly getting those really key utility cards. And to prove the viability of Nanoplasm here, watch this fantastic Aurora ultimate from the enemy team on 4 of the friendly team. I think so, 4, yeah. 1, 2, or just 1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I get out of there with the teleport. Look at my Nanoplasm go to town. 2 of the enemy team are dead. Unfortunately, the enemy Bellica just comes over here and just kind of totally one-shots me. Well, look at that damage from my Cosmic Rift heal me there. My Burden heal me there. Got no mana. Bellica does Bellica things. Now here's a good example of me staying in the background while biding my time and doing some good damage. Look at that Burden apply our newly acquired Tainted Magic, which again will have tremendous value on not only increasing the value of our poke damage, but also because our ultimate here, which completely it just chunks half of that phase's health, and she barely was in it, just continue to refresh the duration of Tainted Magic. So Tainted Magic here basically is 2% of the target's current health every second, and our ultimate will keep refreshing that. So for the entire 3.5 seconds, if I can get an enemy inside my ultimate, for an entire 3.5 seconds, that's 2% of their health gone every second, plus an additional 4 seconds after my ultimate is finished, not including any of my other abilities I may get to land on them as well. That prolonged, slow drain of Tainted Magic on the enemy team, I think, is really good. Plus, it highly helps your Burden, because your Burden will apply it every tick as well for 2 seconds, plus 4 seconds after that, and your Cosmic Rift. Not only is it going to do tremendous damage instantaneously, but then it has 8% of their health afterwards as well. Really great cards, and something else as well. Divine Shield. Spell block blocks the next enemy ability. This will enable you to, if there happens to be a Rampage, a Decker, if they happen to get a good last pick against you in the draft, and you're like, ah, rats, you can get this Divine Shield a little bit early to really help against that. What that does mean, though, is that you have to kind of be the one to commit to your ultimate, force that stun out, so that that stun is the first enemy ability that actually gets hit by Divine Shield. Now here is the push to the end, and just to prove to you that we're still doing a ton of damage, look at that. Serath, oh, like a third of her health just gone from that Cosmic Rift. We're still doing a ton of damage. We have our Sorcerer's Ward for some great ability penetration, all the power on all the other cards that we have. We're still doing good damage with this crazy utility that we have. So it's guys, I really love this deck. It provides some great utility for you to apply that Thick Blood, to apply Ash of the Witch, still do tons of damage with Tainted Magic, have some viability for your ultimate with your Nanoplasm and just kind of general engagements after that as well. It's just fantastic. I really like it. Still deal a ton of damage here. You can see that there's damage on that, damage on the Nanoplasm, shock, which really helps. There isn't necessarily a true 30 ability pin, but that's because in the math department we don't actually have just enough power to warrant it. So damage on the Tainted Magic, little bit of mana and ability armor here, but some cast on the Thick Blood as well. We're still doing great damage. Guys, let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this deck. There's a lot to it, but I think there's a lot to Gideon, is that he's basically a very good MOBA caster. He's a very good MOBA caster in that, and what I really mean is, if you can draft him in the lobby appropriately, that is automatically the advantage that you need on Gideon. So this, I'm just trying to only compound that advantage that he already naturally should get. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this deck. Please, ladies and gentlemen, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it to the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. You guys like this content, especially if you found it useful. There's tons more coming, and I would really like to help you out in the future. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.